Welcome. In front of me is a Xiaomi Redmi Note 13 Pro, and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick overview. So, let's get started. Okay. So, taking a look at the device, I'm gonna boot it up, and while it's booting up, let's just talk about what was in the box. So we do have a case, silicone one, grayish. I do like the color pick right here. The clear ones usually get nasty, like yellowish, so gray ones are better. Then we get a 67-watt charger, so that's pretty good. It comes with the device, which is just surprising nowadays. And we get a Type-C to Type-A charging cable for our device. The device itself right here, you can see, once it boots up, has a pretty good screen-to-body ratio. We select our language, there we go. So it is a 6.67-inch display running a resolution of 1220 by 2712. So it is pretty decent. It's a little bit over 1080p. It is also an AMOLED display, 120 Hz refresh rate, Dolby Vision, peak brightness of 1800 nits, and what's the glass right here? Gorilla Glass Victus. About close to 90% screen to body ratio, that's why we have these fairly minimal bezels, and about 440 pixels per inch. So let me just finish up the setup. And come on. Anyway, while it's doing whatever the heck it's doing in preparation, like it didn't have time before, let's flip it over to the backside where we will find our triple camera setup. Now, the main sensor right here is a whopping 200 megapixel wide sensor. Then we have an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a sticker camera, which I'm just baffled that it's only here, which is a 2 megapixel macro. Now, the last one, the 2 megapixel macro, is just an absolute shit cam, and you will never find use for it as we have a whopping 200 megapixels. Just to put that in perspective, a 50 megapixel sensor, which is a quarter of what this is, can capture a better macro shots than the 2 megapixel macro would. No matter how high quality the macro lens is, at 2 megapixels it's just too small to capture anything good. With a 50 megapixel 2x zoom, you will get a vastly superior macro shot than the dedicated lens, making it absolutely freaking useless. Now, multiply that by 4. That's basically what you have right here as a comparison. And for some stupid reasons, they're literally side by side, like you have a good lens and then you have a middle finger right here, which you get to pay for because apparently all the companies think that their users are absolute morons. So they do this. The phone doesn't look better with triple cameras. It just looks like a freaking waste. I wouldn't mind just not having this and having the dual camera setup and being all freaking happy about it. But no, these dumb people decided to include this garbage, and yeah, that's basically it. Now, I'm picking at Xiaomi for doing this, but let's be honest, almost every manufacturer does this, so they're not the unique ones in this kind of behavior. Everyone is trying to scam people by giving their shit cameras like the 2 megapixel macro or depth sensors, or even better, some 0.02 that I started seeing on like even more budget devices. That doesn't even specify what the lens is. So almost everyone does this, but I still will just point that out in every phone that decides to do this stupid shit, because it's pointless, it's a waste of money, and it's something that you don't ever get to use while it's being forked to you. That, hey, you can capture macro photos because we have a dedicated lens for it. While having a 200 megapixel wide sensor that will do the better job than this dedicated lens. So, useless. Anyway, continuing on into the internals, we have a 5100 mAh battery in here, which is a pretty decent battery size considering this device is relatively compact and also not like heavy. It's also being powered by a Snapdragon 7S Gen 2 and comes with, at the very base entry, with 128 gigabytes of storage with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and can be cranked up all the way to half a terabyte with 16 gigs of RAM, which is more RAM than you will ever need. And just to kind of point that out as a just hilarious thing, the base entry of this device has the same amount of RAM as a MacBook Pro, while the highest end basically has probably as much storage as a MacBook Pro while having double the RAM. Nice. When phones come with more storage and RAM than a freaking MacBook. Awesome. Anyway, now, that being said, I am kind of saying that this is good, but to be completely honest, 16 gigabytes of RAM is an absolute overkill. For a device like this, probably 12 will be sufficient enough for literally everything that you will need it. Possibly you could even get away with 8. This is an Android device with just a candy bar. You're not going to be getting, massive multitasking action on this device done, so you don't really need, insane amounts of RAM. Where it would matter is if, for instance, you have something like a folding device and you have 5 different applications running simultaneously. That's where you might need it. For a device like this, if you tend to use just one application at a time, 8 gigabytes, if you want to save up on money, will be good enough for you. So just wanted to point that out. Now, continuing on into the design right here, we have a... let me find... there we go. We have a tray at the bottom, which, if I'm correct, doesn't have expandable storage, but I am gonna check it out. Yep, so no expandable storage, unfortunately. So if you will go with the 128 gigabyte and 8 gigabyte of RAM version, keep in mind you don't get any more storage outside of the one that you purchased. So might be more beneficial to go for the tier higher, which is 256 and 8 gigs, which will give you more storage and storage size that is, I would say, more recommended for like current age, with applications taking a little bit more space on your device. This will give you a little bit of a peace of mind that you're not going to run out of it. Now, we do have a power button on our side, volume rockers as well. Then at the top we have our speaker grills, IR blaster for controlling any kind of appliances that have a remote control, infrared one specifically. Then we get a forgotten port called a headphone jack, and then on our left side absolutely nothing. And then at the bottom side of the tray itself, we have a microphone, charging port, and a speaker grill. So there we go, that's the design right here. And one more thing that I'm looking for, just to be certain. Yep, there we go. So we do have also under display fingerprint sensor that you can add right here. So that's actually pretty nice. I personally like that. But for people that like it on a power button, that's not the device that will have it. And yeah, that's about it. Last thing that I'm going to mention is the price of this device, and it comes at about $400. It is a pretty affordable device, being somewhere in the mid-range of like prices, offering a pretty decent device for the money. The little silicone case doesn't really want to like go all the way on. That's kind of bugging me. You can see that it's kind of like bowing outside, so you can see a little bit of a bezel right here. Oh well, it is for free, so I guess I can't really complain. So there we go. Now, one last thing that I didn't mention is the charging speeds on this device. With a 67 watt charger that you get in a box, you can charge the device up to 50% in just as little as 17 minutes, and in 44 minutes it's going to be fully charged. So again, insane charging speeds right here, which will allow you to just top up the device really quickly. Also, if you tend to charge your device at the last minute before you leave home, you can plug in for like 10 minutes and basically have enough juice to last you for the rest of the day, which is really good. One last thing that I wanted to mention is an alternative to this device, as some people might look for something else. So there are devices from also Xiaomi, the Poco lineup specifically. So Poco, we have the X6 Pros, X6, and also F5 and F5 Pro. Let me just quickly check. So The Poco F5 Pro will cost a tiny bit more, coming at about 37 bucks more, 40 bucks more, give or take. It is an older device, but I do recommend checking that out instead of this one, just because that device will be more powerful for about just a couple bucks more. Well, basically as price of a meal. So like 30 bucks more, you get a device that is running on a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Not the newest processor, we are already at a Gen 3, but still I believe it's more powerful than this one, while offering you a little bit of a bigger display, a little bit of a higher resolution, bigger battery, faster processor. The downside is the cameras. The main camera is a 64 megapixels, but what will probably matter is that the Poco is a little bit more of a flagship device, and therefore I assume they are going to be doing a little bit more post-processing in the background, giving you probably as good of a pictures as this one. Bigger sensor doesn't always equate to better photos, so that is something to keep in mind. And in general, the device, the Poco F5 Pro, will be more powerful and just better in almost every single way, which might interest some people. If you're already spending like 400 bucks, you might as well get something that is just a bit better. And additionally, as a kind of alternative, you also have the F5, not the Pro, which comes with a Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2, and it will be relatively similar to this device, but also will cost a little bit less, coming out about $380. So again, you get relatively similar device for a little bit less if you want to save up money. And newly released the Poco's X6 will there's one of the X6, not the Pro, which has basically the same specs as this one in terms of the processor and storages and stuff like that, but it costs nearly $100 less. So you might want to, if you want to save up and have still basically as powerful device as this one, you could go for the X6 instead and probably be super happy with it. And one last option is the X6 Pro, which is running a Dimensity 8300 Ultra, which is equivalent to a basically Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, I think, if I remember correctly, and still costs less than this. So again, another great alternative to this one. Now I am basically suggesting all of the Xiaomi devices just because, number one, this is a Xiaomi, and number two, they offer just absolute bang for the buck when it comes down to some of their devices like the Poco lineup. So highly recommend checking those out. Fantastic picks, all of them. But with that being said, hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.